Hello everyone. Do you know the 6 guns that the United States still relies on to this day, no matter how the circumstances change? Today, GCE News will let you know about the 6 oldest guns still trusted by the U.S. military to this day.
If George Patton called the M1 Garand the most successful American rifle of World War II, the M14 is the most successful rifle in American history. This legendary gun has been produced since 1959 and surprisingly, although technology has changed for nearly 60 years, the M14 continues to be used to this day. The only thing people improved was to replace the wooden case with a plastic case. The rest of the basic things are the firing mechanism or bullet caliber is still the same. Between 1959 and 1964, a total of 1.3 million old-style M14 rifles were produced. It was the main weapon used by U.S. ground troops in the early stages of the Vietnam War. Although it was a good rifle, it was not suitable for the Vietnam battlefield because it was too heavy, too long, and the wooden parts were prone to warping due to humid climatic conditions. Eventually, the U.S. Army upgraded and improved the gun to create a new version, the Mk14 EBR. Compared to the M14 of the 60s, the Mk14 has an identical firing mechanism but has completely different materials. Specifically, this gun uses metal and plastic materials more instead of wood materials before. Technical grooves are also added for soldiers to comfortably attach external equipment to the gun. The grip can be lengthened and shortened depending on the size of the user's hands. With an accurate range of up to 800 m when equipped with a scope, the Mk14 has a certain position in the sniper rifle village. It exerts extremely effective power, especially in urban combat environments, when the aiming distance is usually not far beyond 1000 m due to entanglement with buildings. Compared to current standard assault rifles, the Mk14 uses a larger caliber of ammunition, has higher lethality, can be used as a sniper rifle, but the soldier does not need to undergo any difficult training. It is for these reasons that the 62-year-old gun still retains a certain place in the personal weapons service of the U.S. Army. In 1964, with the government and military of the Republic of Vietnam increasingly weakened and in danger of collapse despite the huge support of the United States and especially the National Front for the Liberation of South Vietnam supported in all aspects by its socialist brotherly countries, the United States was forced to send expeditionary troops directly to Vietnam. They brought dozens of types of military vehicles, weapons and equipment to the S-shaped land, determined to dry blood with Ho's army. And one of the famous guns, following in the footsteps of American soldiers fighting in Indochina, is the M60 machine gun, born 64 years ago. During the days of Red Vietnam, the M60 proved to be a fairly effective weapon and suitable for harsh weather conditions in a muddy country as a specialty. Any gun, fighting in a wet environment like in Vietnam with poor logistics, will certainly affect combat effectiveness, but at least it is not as fragile as the M16. The M60 machine gun uses an air-fed, wire-fed, air-cooled projectile mechanism with a single mode of continuous fire. This weapon can also change the barrel quickly when it gets too hot to prolong its life. And to keep firing stability, the M60 is also equipped with an additional 2-legged or 3-legged bracket. With its high features and reliability, this gun has won the trust of American soldiers from 1957 until now. The M60 is famous, but when it comes to machine guns, there is one type that is even more famous than that. With a wealth of up to 88 years, the Assassin M2 Browning has become a monument of the world machine gun village. This is a versatile machine gun, taking on many tasks in all units in the U.S. military, from the Navy, the Army to the Air Force. The history of the development of the M2 machine gun dates back more than a century, when designer John Browning began working on the development of a heavy machine gun for the U.S. Army in 1918. After the father of this gun died in 1926, a new version called M2 HB 12.7 by 99 mm was born. The gun no longer uses a coolant tank like the old version, but uses a thicker and air-cooled barrel. After that, the QCB, Quick Change Barrel system was further developed. Compared to the equivalent weapon of the Soviet DSHK machine gun, the M2HB has many advantages such as faster line of sight thanks to the sight mechanism. The gun has a lighter weight, although the dose is smaller. The bullet tension is not inferior to the DSHK thanks to the short barrel reversing mechanism for loading ammunition, less recoil. The single IM2 tape wire is connected by a self-disintegrating pin. pin, so there is never a phenomenon of entanglement like the DSHK, and what makes soldiers like it even more is that hearing the M2 gun is less ear-wrenching. However, compared to DSHK, the M2 has some insurmountable disadvantages. If you use this gun, you must definitely pay attention. The M2 is made up of many small parts, so it is more difficult to maintain than the DSHK. It requires extremely high precision and technical assurance. And never throw the gun around, because the M2 is also a product that can malfunction when it gets dirt. Although this old general has been in the army since 1933, it seems that Washington still has no intention of storing this gun. Indeed, John Browning gave the US defense industry a masterpiece that both feared and admired by other nations. But human potential is limitless, and 102 years ago, he also created a gun that the military still loves today. And the name I want to mention is Browning M1919. This is a 7.62 by 63 mm caliber machine gun used by many countries throughout the 20th century. The M1919 has become a popular gun around the world because since entering the war in 1919, it has fought in many different roles such as infantry weapons, interceptors, and anti-aircraft guns. We invite you to look at the screen to take a look at the basic parameters of this machine gun with KTQS. The M1919 weighs about 14 kilograms excluding the magazine, 964 millimeters in length for the M1919A4 variant and 1,346 millimeters for the M1919A6. It can wipe out any target within a radius of 1,000 m, a maximum of 1,400 m with a rate of fire of about 400 to 600 rounds per minute. During World War II, the M1919 was used by the United States, Britain, Free France, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the Republic of China, etc., used on all fronts from Europe to the Asia Pacific. The Soviets also received 3,000 guns through the Lend-Lease program. They were mainly installed on American tanks and semi-tracked vehicles supplied to the Red Army such as the M3 Stuart, M3 Half-Track, etc. Currently, the M1919 is still used in large numbers in many places such as Libya, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and in Vietnam. It's about machine guns and rifles, so on today's list, is there a place reserved for pistols? The answer is yes. Between 1899 and 1902, the United States was at war with the Philippines, and the US military found that the Colt M1892 revolver of the same caliber .38 LC was not powerful enough to knock out the enemy at close range in one shot. Because of this, the US military began the process of finding another model of gun with a more powerful caliber and faster reload. It was then that the Colt M1911 semi-automatic pistol model with .45 ACP caliber and Tate magazine became a perfect alternative. As the name suggests, this gun officially entered the war in 1911, that is, 110 years ago. At the time, it was built to use a single action mechanism, which meant that the hammer had to be fixed for the first shot, either manually or by pulling the slider. The effective range of the gun reaches 62 m, 10 m longer than most pistols today in the world. Accuracy is not on the table. However, due to its large caliber combined with a single stacked magazine, the Colt .45 only has a capacity of 7 rounds and an additional 1 round in the drive, but the kinetic energy coming from it can disable a man weighing more than 70 kilograms with just 1 round. The gun itself is very simple in construction, requires little cleaning, works well in many harsh conditions, and there is almost nothing to spoil. Following in the footsteps of the US military, this pistol has seen combat in nearly every war in the world since its inception, so it's no wonder that the M1911 has become an icon in American culture. And surely no gamer is unaware of this famous gun line because it appears in most games set in the First and Second World Wars. So are the specifications of the M1911 in the video game much different from the real-life version? If you know, then don't hesitate to share your opinion below the comments section. Back to content. On November 17, 1915, Major Smedley Butler and a group of US Marines approached Fort Riviere. This is a former French military facility in Haiti and is occupied by Cacos rebels. Major Butler and his comrades were tasked with wiping out the force. The attack took the Cacos army completely by surprise because it was an unequal fight. The rebels only had machetes and their opponents were holding a rifle known as the Fierce of the Americans. the desperate attacks of the rebels were constantly repulsed. Even when they ran out of ammunition, the Americans continued to fight hand-to-hand with bayonets, paving the way for their comrades to storm in. The disparity was too great. The attack ended easily with the entire Caco's rebels being annihilated. And the 1903 Springfield rifle the Americans used in that attack began its glory days 118 years ago. In 1900, the United States tested its first gun in Massachusetts. The test results were so good that on June 19, 1903, the gun became the American Standard Rifle, Model 1903, chambered for .30 ammunition. However, it is more commonly known as 03 Springfield. In just the first year, the United States produced 30,000 new generation guns. The 7.62 by 63 mm ammunition has made the 03 Springfield a world-class rifle, on par with all competitors. Even today, this ammunition is still trusted by the US military thanks to its superiority. During the Philippine Rebellion, the new gun replaced the Craig Jorgensen and older Springfield guns. At the first fire test, 03 Springfield was quickly trusted by soldiers thanks to its power and ability to reload ammunition quickly. However, according to the laws of development, the Army was forced to search for a successor to the American rifle, and the chosen one was the M1 Garand. But fortunately, Springfield's fate was extended as the Great Depression left the US government with little money to make the M1 the standard weapon for the military. However, World War II rang the death knell for this legendary gun. When the United States entered the war, the M1 Garand began to be massively produced and quickly became trusted by soldiers. Although inferior to its successor, Springfield continued to be used only because in the first month, the number of M1s produced could not meet demand. Many soldiers in different theaters still fight with the 03 Springfield rifle in hand. To continue using Springfield, after one few modifications, the US Army launched the Springfield M1903A3 and continued to produce it in large quantities. Even to take advantage of the old gun inventory, they were distributed freely to Allied forces. Another famous role of this legend in the war was snipering. With only a few small changes along with the optical viewfinder, the M1903A4 version when born became one villain on the battlefield. When WW2 ended, Springfield's era was almost over. Although rarely used, the military printed technical manuals for M1903A4 until 1970. This means that Springfield served 3 generations of American soldiers during the first 7 decades of the 20th century, longer than any rifle in the world. Currently, you can see it in the military parades and ceremonies of this country. Thus, the Springfield rifle has lived a satisfying life, worthy of the title of the oldest gun in America still used today. Recently, we took a look at 6 old generals with the longest life expectancy in the history of US firearms. Which gun do you love the most? Do not hesitate to share cool facts related to them with everyone by leaving a comment below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so as not to miss any exciting itineraries from GCE News. Now on behalf of the crew, Global Conflicts Explained is hello and see you in the next videos.